Everyone is going crazy over the past 24 to 48 hours because of the latest chapter of One Piece, chapter 1037. My goodness, the possibilities I've heard about what they've said, the Gorosei, in the latest chapter of One Piece. There's so many possibilities, and I'm gonna roll through some of these possibilities, but we gotta keep it a buck. When Oda does these big lore reveals, people go nuts. And this time, of course, it's for a genuine reason. It does make a lot of sense because the Gorosei are alluding to possibly the most important devil fruit in the series. Just how the most important thing you can do for this video is to rate the video, is to subscribe to the channel, and of course, click on the bell to join the notification squad, okay?
Okay.
So, let me read to you what the Gorosei said, just in case you got the Miyazaki treatment and you got spirited away, spent like an entire generation in some alternate plane of existence, and you just came back. Let me refresh your mind.
Soka.
So in the very last page of chapter 1037, we have a cut to the Gorosei. And one of the Goroseis, the guy with the very thick mustache, says, "No, that's impossible. That fruit is only a legend now, even to us. It has not awakened for centuries upon centuries." Then Sanji's adopted father says, "Then why would the world government bother to give that one specific devil fruit another name? It's to erase that fruit's name from the annals of history, isn't it?" Now, there are two things that are heavily implied. Number one is that we already know this fruit's fake name. It would really be strange to have never heard the name of this fruit before, get the fake name, and then get the real name after we get the fake name. Oda could have just had a reveal of legendary fruit without any of this name-changing nonsense. That's the first thing. It's heavily implied that we already know the name of the fruit. The second thing is that the awakening of the fruit is the most important aspect of the fruit. It is actually likely that the fruit's true name was based on its awakening. So now we've established all of that, let's dive into the multiverse of madness when it comes to the possibilities of what the fruit they're talking about is. And the craziest thing I've heard over the past 48 hours, Zunisha itself is the devil fruit user. It's an ancient giant, maybe of a size comparable to the Onigashima Skull Dome in size, and that individual, long ago in the distant past, ate a mythical Zoan called the Zozo no Mi model Daily, based on those elephants that have very, very, very long legs that can walk across the ocean. And folks say this because what the Gorosei are saying is in direct conjunction with Zunisha arriving right behind the world government. Now, I am not a fan of this theory. I think it is the craziest theory possible for what could be the devil fruit that they're talking about. First of all, we have no idea if it is actually a fruit, what fruit it is. We can assume it's the mythical Zoan, but that's of course an assumption, number one. Number two is that Zunisha has been around for 1,000 years, and there's a good chance, I think there's a very good chance that Zunisha itself actually predates the existence of the devil fruits themselves. Yes. And then, even if you want to scale up in size, based on an ancient giant that have the skull of the Onigashima Skull Dome, even still, I don't think it'd be big enough to be that big. Like, Zunisha is absolutely absurd in size. And honest to God, I think Zunisha is actually more so of a fake out, but that's going to require a video for Zunisha. So Zunisha, I'm not a fan of it. Is it possible? It's Oda, so anything is possible, I guess, but that one, I'm not gonna put my money into it. Now, number two is Tama and her devil fruit, the Kiwi Kiwi no Mi, or the Milla Milla fruit. I'm just going to simply say, nah, because what's very important here in the dialogue of the Gorosei is the awakening aspect of this fruit. And Tama is far too young to have her powers awaken. That's just flat out the truth. She's just far too young. It makes no sense. Think of how goofy, unskilled, and unknowledgeable Luffy was when he was a kid, first using the powers of the Gumi Gumi no Mi. Or Momonosuke, with his artificial devil fruit of the Fish Fish no Mi model Azure Dragon. Even a smile user can transform with no problems if they can. Like, for example, Sheep Horn. But Momo's a mess. He's a mess. So the kids don't have the ability to maximize their own different power, let alone awaken them. We've seen that in several cases here. And all Tama can really do is just pinch her cheeks and make Dango. Therefore, it doesn't make much sense for her awakening to be 9. It makes absolutely 0 sense on the part of Tama. That's number 2. Number 3, Toki's Devil Fruit. Toki's Devil Fruit and the Toki Toki no Mi, or the Time Fruit. People think that Toki is still alive because she might have been the one to actually heal the scabbards. And at the beginning of this chapter, 1037, we do see a balloon for her in celebration during the Fire Festival. I'm gonna say a flat out hard no. Hell no, okay? I am going to dread it.
Dread it.
And I am going to run from it.
Run from it. Destiny arrives all the same.
The time has been a simple one-way street, and I would much rather Oda keep it that way. Toki being back alone of itself has complications, considering how she went out during the Odin flashback. That's the first issue. The second issue is that with an awakening with a time ability would imply more time abilities. I am very fearful for how things will play out in the future when it comes to that power's impact on the story. Absolutely. So I'm gonna say a hard no on Toki and the time ability. Even if it was, let's say, Hiri who ate the fruit because Toki died in Wano Country, the soul of the fruit went to another fruit that was somewhere in Wano Country, and then Hiri ate that fruit, the answer is still a resounding no. Now, other options that are less crazy are, number 1, Caribou Swamp Fruit. I love the idea of Caribou comic relieving himself into major relevancy. I definitely do. But there's a good chance Caribou just ain't that dude. There's a very good chance. After Caribou is Kid and his magnet fruit. Yeah. Now, Yamato and the dog fruit model Okushi no Makami, I'm actually not against that idea at all. Her fruit was based on the idea of it being the guardian deity of Wano, according to Kaido. Yamato with an awakening would be very powerful and give the best fighters a run for their money, no doubt, without a doubt. However, think of the seriousness of the Gorosei's conversation. A fruit so important that the name had to be changed so they could hide the true nature of the fruit. No offense, but I don't think a Zoan ability, mythical or not, would warrant that level of discretion and deception. Unless it was the Hito no Mi model Jesus or model Yahweh. Or even more so, model Muhammad. Okay. I can definitely understand why the Gorosei would want to change at that point. But I'd even feel the same way when it comes to the Logias as well. Unless the Yami no Mi is the fruit that they're talking about, I don't see the need to change the name or hide its true power per se. I don't think it even makes sense since the Logia abilities are very apparent because they're all elemental. Like the glint, light. Magma. Mara, fire. They're very self-descriptive, and it doesn't make much sense to do all this name tomfoolery to hide the true nature of the fruit, which is why I gotta look at the Paramecia more so than any other different category, which leaves the last 2 major options. Number 1, Trafalgar D Water Law and the Opi no Mi. This is a very strong candidate to be the fruit that the Gorosei are talking about. It's a fruit that everyone and their great-grandmother knows is busted beyond belief, and the fruit's awakening so far that we've seen, the Kroom, could be used in so many effective ways. We also know that Lost Fruit can operate, no pun intended, on a cellular level because he could actually remove the poison from within the kids on Punk Hazard. And of course, there is the immortality surgery as well. Super important ability that Dofi mainly wanted the fruit for. It's also theorized that the Gorosei and/or Emu have used that fruit's ability in the past to make themselves immortal. The fruit is highly coveted 1000%. However, that's just it though, right? The fruit is already highly coveted. Even the biggest names across the world want the Opie no Mi. It wouldn't surprise me even that Blackbeard would actually target Law's life to gain that ability. But given the words of the Gorosei, the government took deceptive measures to hide the true value of this fruit for centuries. This means that most people, aside from a very, very select few, know the true value of this ability. So even though Law is a good candidate, he's not where I'm putting my money on. I'm putting my money on the man, the myth, the lurking legend of One Piece, Monkey D. Luffy. I'm putting it on the Gomu Gomu no Mi. After this video is done, you should, without a doubt, watch these two videos I did before in the past. One is titled Luffy Beats Kaido 1v1, the crazy trail Oda has designed. Number 2 is the best Gomu Gomu no Mi theory. I think what I said in those videos is coming to pass, and there are hints of this in this very chapter 1037. The last page of the Kaido and Luffy fight in this chapter I think is hella important because we see Luffy do something I don't think we've seen him do for a minute now in Wano Country. After the Rock Gatling versus Kaido's Dragon Swarm, his Kundali Dragon Storm, Luffy versus Kaido winds up turning into Jotaro versus Dio. And then Luffy expands his leg and kicks Kaido in the midsection. Notice how Luffy is using Gear 2 and Gear 3 in conjunction effortlessly at this point in time. But the key thing here is that Luffy seems to have expanded his leg without blowing into his thumb to have the air pass through his body to expand the leg. Therefore, the leg wasn't as giant as the previous attacks, but it still expanded nonetheless. And it's only after that attack do we then cut to the Gorosei when they talk about a certain devil fruit. We've seen this before. We've seen it at the beginning of the Wano Country arc when Luffy uses his sumo slap attack on Urashima to help Kiku out in chapter 916. Not his giant sumo slap, but the first iteration of it. This is really very clearly depicted and shown in the anime version of the chapter, episode 903. It is very clear that Luffy's able to expand his hand, his arm, without air. How? How is Luffy able to do that? And I've had my eyes on that since he first showed it in the manga. And now I'm willing to bet in the near future, the chickens are gonna come home to roost. This, I think, was a sign, a clear sign, that after the Katakuri fight, Luffy's understanding and skills with his own Devil Fruit powers have improved. So much so that Luffy could be on the verge of awakening. Plus remember, Who's Who did reveal a lot of very important details about the Gomu Gomu no Mi. And since then, the stock of the Gomu Gomu no Mi has been in an absurd uptrend. Luffy's awakening could not only be the final thing that he needs to beat Kaido, but could be far more than meets the eye. And again, I once again highly recommend that you watch those two videos that I mentioned before to understand just how crazy things could get in the near future. But to be fair though, there are some folks here that do point to One Piece chapter 385 as a point against it being the Gomu Gomu no Mi, because Lucci tells Kaku and Khalifa when they have their Devil Fruits for the first time, when you eat the fruit, you gain its power, and you also learn the name of the fruit. So Luffy must already know the name of the Gomu Gomu no Mi, and that can't change, allegedly. However, there are two important things that we have to note here when Luffy ate the fruit. Number one, he was a kid, and that might have played a role in him knowing the name instinctively or not. After all, we found out Tama's fruit's name, not from her, but from a Vivarcard data book. That's the first thing. The second thing is that Shanks was the one that told Luffy's the fruit name. So whether or not Shanks did it intentionally or not, we have no idea. But that is a key detail that you cannot ignore. Shanks told Luffy that it was the Gomu Gomu no Mi. And a lot of folks say that Shanks is very sneaky. Very sneaky. Finally, this might be possible too. When a fruit awakens, its name might change. So an example of this could be Trafalgar D. Water Law himself. Law normally says room. But when he uses his awakening, he says Kroom. So that implies that when he is awakened, the fruit name changes when he uses its awakened abilities. So for example, think of Bleach. You have regular Zangetsu, but then Bankai is Tensa Zangetsu. The name changes. And an idea that I like, that I got from the tier 3 cats over on Twitch after the chapter reaction from Syl, was the idea of it being actually the Nobi Nobi no Mi, or the stretch fruit. The rubber that Luffy has innately in his body is a byproduct of his natural ability to stretch / expand. That is the true nature, the true awakening of the ability that Luffy has consumed. I like that a lot. I do. Because Luffy might just have the properties of both rubber and gum.